In today's show, we're going to talk about the PowerApps ForAll function. The ForAll function is used to loop through a table of data and run one or more formulas against that data. What does that mean? That means we're going to build ourselves a gallery. We're going to put little select boxes of those so you can check the 4 or 5 items out of the gallery you want, and then we're going to go and process those items. It's a pretty cool little function. I use it in a lot of my solutions. It has a lot of intricacies, so it's a little tougher, but I think it's worth the effort to learn it. But first, here's our intro. Hi, my name is Shane Young with PowerApps 911. Those guys. And today's show is about the PowerApps ForAll function. So this is one of those functions I've needed to cover for a long time. I've snuck it into a couple of videos, but I've always struggled to make it its own dedicated video because it's kind of a complex function. It might be the hardest function that I know, honestly. So what I thought we would do in this video is start with some real basic ways of using ForAll, then get into some more moderate ways, and in the end we'll talk about some of the harder parts about ForAll and things you can learn. Because, you know, if I look at my solutions, I use this thing all the time, but it's just a little bit tougher. So I don't know, whatever. Let's just switch over to the demo, take a look, and we'll explain kind of what we're going to do. So over here on my desktop, you can see that I've got a gallery, right? Our friend, the SharePoint list that we use for everything. All right, and this function has nothing to do with SharePoint. I just like to use that SharePoint list as the data source. And so what I want to be able to do was I want to be able to come over and be like, all right, so, you know, if we scroll down here, like we got the newbie Daniel, so he's not good at his job. Scuba's not good at his job. So we could fix this, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, you know what? I want to change those to be true. So I've selected 2 different records. And so then here what I'm going to do is I'm going to say patch the selected items. And then boop, it should go off. And so it actually is going to run a function or a formula against both of those records. And so then now if we recreate the collection by pressing this button here, we should see that now the consultant, Scuba, is good at his job and the newbie is good at their job. So it's a way for us to select 1 or more records and modify those. And that's not the only time I use it. A lot of times it's like creating master-child relationships or just anytime I need to loop through data. ForAll function is typically what it is. But it's not your traditional looping function. So it has some intricacies. So we're just kind of talk about some of that. So this is basically, though, kind of the app we're going to build in some capacity. But I thought we'd just start with a blank screen and go from there. So we'll exit out of there. We'll say new screen and blank. Boom. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of explore the syntax of ForAll. So throw a button on the screen. And so for the button, we're going to say we would do a ForAll. Remember, PowerApps is case sensitive, so spell it right or capitalize it right. And so then it says, all right, what is your source? So you have to pass it a table of data. So that could be either a data source directly, like our employee SharePoint list, or a collection that you went ahead and made on your own. But so for right now, we'll just pass it the employees list. So we'll say, for all the records in the employees list, so we do a comma, and then now it's like, what formula do you want to do? What do you want to do now that you've given me all of those? So what we could do, how about we'll just do something like, let's add an email real quick. So we'll go over here, data sources. We'll search for Outlook. There's the Outlook one. We will add a connect or click to that one. All right, so now we've got employees, we've got Outlook. So we're just going to say Office 365 Outlook.send email v2. So who are we going to send it to? Well, we're going to send it just to me, just to make this easier. So Shane at PowerApps911.com. The subject is going to be, here's a link. And then down here, what we're going to do is we're just going to include the link. Right, there's a link to item, which is a URL that will come in from the data source. And so what's going to happen here is, you know, our employees list has a bunch of different records. I honestly don't remember how many. Oh, you can see I've still got a red error. That's because I closed out the send email function, but I didn't close out the ForAll function. So let's put a second parenthesis over there. Let's throw a label on the screen real quick. And so for the label, we're going to say, hey, I want to do count rows in the employee's data source, and that's not delegable, but you can see that there's 7 rows. Okay, so what that means is when I run this function, it's going to run 7 times, once for each record. And so for each one of those, it's going to send over, it's going to pass that record into this formula. And so it's like, hey, send an email to Shane. Here's a link, it's going to be the subject. How about we'll do this? Here's the link for, and then we're going to do and title. Right, and so title is the name of the column in the record employees. So you should see a different name for the title each time, and then a link to those items. So those are just values that are coming out of that data source. So let's just press the button, see what happens. You can see the ants marching across the top of the screen. And so after a few seconds, it's like, I'm all good. And so if I switch over to my email, hang on one sec. So here's a link to my email. You can see I have a lot of unread emails, but you can see that here's a link for newbie, operations, nap taker, consultant, PowerApps, truck driver, CEO. So all the records in my SharePoint list for every one of those, for all 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All 7 of those records, it sent me one email for each one with the data unique to each one of those. So that's a pretty cool, right? Just an easy way to like wrap your head around it. So all the data source for each one of those, pull the unique title and linked item. Right? Notice we don't use this item like we do in galleries. There's no way to reference this item, but it just knows that you mean the current record. Okay? So in its most simple form, that's how ForAll works. Cool? All right. So let's blow all this stuff off the screen. Boop. Let's hide this thing. So let's try and build kind of a little bit of that solution we saw a minute ago. So if I was going to build a solution to patch all those people, the first thing I would probably do is, first thing I'd probably do is throw a gallery on the screen, because I like galleries. I want to see my employees. So we'll throw all this on there. Oh, look at it. Nicola's pretty face. Chewy's pretty face. Scuba's ugly. Daniel looks like a person that belongs in prison. Maybe that is his mugshot where I had to bail him out. Who knows? Anyway, so here are the different employees. Okay, so we've got that piece. And so the first thing I want you to do is figure out how to patch a specific record, right? Because we want to patch and update all of them, but you got to work out, right? I never try to work out everything in one big formula. I do it in baby steps. So I'm going to throw a button on the screen. I'm going to be like, all right. So if I wanted to update is good at their job, we probably need to add a label over here to show, if they're good at their job. And so this item dot good at their job. And so you can see right now that I think everyone is marked as good at their job, which is not true. So what we could do is we're going to be like, all right, well, I want to patch. What am I going to patch? I'm going to patch the employees list. What record do I want to patch? I want to patch gallery 2. Oh, not gallery 2, gallery 3. Yep, see it turned green, so I know it's the right one. Dot selected, right? That's the record we want to patch. And what do we want to patch? We're going to patch good at their job. And we're going to set it to false. So like this and like this. And so then in theory, if we click on play here, we'll pick on Greg. So we'll click on Greg's record and then we'll press the button. And so then boom, it went and patched it. The data source automatically refreshed. And now it knows Greg is not good at his job. So we know that this is the correct formula for patching an individual record, right? We want to learn things in baby steps. So the next thing we're going to do, we'll just put patch 1. There we go. And so the next thing I want to do is I want to kind of make sure you're thinking it all the way through. So we're going to add a drop down. And so in this drop down, we're going to put in the values, right? So in this case, it's going to be square bracket, true, comma, false. So that makes, right, the square brackets make a single column table. And that single column table just have 2 values, a true value and a false value. So we can go back over here to patch and be like, all right, so instead of hard coding good at their job to false, I'm going to set this to be drop down. I think it's 2. It is. See how it turned green? That's so helpful. Dot selected and then dot value. And so then now it should patch these people to be whatever they've done. Now the other thing that's been a little weird is I don't know who I really have selected over here. So remember you can use a formula like this. You can say template fill. And so I would just say if this item and one of the built-in fields of a gallery is selected. So if it's the record that's currently selected, then we're going to set the color to be, what we got in the orange family? How about a nice dark orange? Yes, right? See that Halloween theme. And if not, then I'm going to use my favorite color that I promise you they made because of me, because I whined about it. So transparent. So now you can see that Greg is the selected record. And so right now we're going to choose true. And so if we click on patch 1, it should set Greg back to true. Okay, I know you're not here for a patching video, but you got to learn this stuff in baby steps. So now that we understand that that's the patch formula we want to use, now what I want to do is I want to try and apply this. And I want to just be able to patch everyone at once. Okay, I want to just be able to, in one fell swoop, I'm mad at everybody. I want to say they all stink at their jobs all at once. So I'm going to throw a second button on here, and we're going to use ForAll. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for all, if I can spell it right. And so here what I can do is I can say, once again, it just needs to be a data source, so it could be employees, right? So for all the employees, so then all the data in that data source, what do you want to do? I want to patch. And what I'm really going to do, just to make myself, I could just grab this formula, but I'm going to have to fix this formula a little bit. You go with that? Let's fix this formula. So we're going to copy this. We'll go over here. We're going to paste it in. Okay, so it's mad at us, right? It's like, well, cannot operate on the same data source. You know, it's a little weirded out. So first thing I want to do is we're going to change the this portion. So how are we going to find the right record that we want to do, right? We can't use gallery selected anymore. So what you need to do, oh my goodness, is you need to hit Control Z because I pressed that button I did not mean to. So we're going to go right here to gallery 3.select. We're going to get rid of that. And so we're going to use a lookup function to find the right record. So we're going to get a little tricky on you, right? So I hope you're paying attention. So we're going to go look up employees. And what we want to do is we want to do it where ID equals the ID of the current employee. But so then we end up writing ID equals ID, which never ends well. I don't know how else to put it. This doesn't ever end well. So what we're going to do is we're going to use one of the things that I've taught you guys before. And so that is called rename columns. So the rename columns gives us a chance to change a column's name. Because I don't want ID equals ID. I want ID equals EID for employee ID, right? So I'm going to go over here to the table portion of this for all, and I'm going to say, hey, you, what I really want to do is rename columns. I'm going to close my parentheses so I know where I'm at. And I'm going to rename the ID column. Remember that it's in quotes like that. And what name do I want to give it? I'm just going to call it EID. Right? E-I-E-I-O? No. EID, right? So that just changes the name of that column for this particular instance. So then now I can come over here and be like, hey, you, rename columns, employees, ID, EID. So I'm going to patch the employees table where we're looking up in the employees table where ID equals EID. So now it's not confusing. I don't have ID equaling ID. And then we're going to set good at their job to be drop down to.selected.value, right? That's that true or false drop down we made. And then we close the thing. And then once again, it's like, hey, you're missing something over here, right? Because this parenthesis is closing the patch. But I got to close the for all. So what I'm going to do is put in one more. Now the button is happy. And so that looks correct to me. So let's do this. Let's hit play. And we're going to I'm mad at all the people. We're going to make them all bad at their job. So we're going to say false. We're going to press this button. Boop, 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 boop. Everybody has been changed to false. Everyone is no longer good at their job. That is the brilliance of for all, is it worked its way through the employees list. Now, and this comes up a lot. That's why I made sure we did it this way, where I have to rename the columns. Right, because I needed to be able to find the record that I wanted to patch. And so I had to do this lookup to get the record that needed to be patched, but you can't say ID equals ID because that makes no sense. So that's why this instance of employees, I'm saying instead of ID being ID, make ID be EID. So that way I can say ID equals EID. Right, because when you use rename columns, it is only changing the table for this one set of data, right? And I'll link to a video below on rename columns in case you're like, whoa, what happened there? But rename columns, it's one of your data shaping functions. It helped us right there. And so we're able to patch and do all the fun things we want to do, right? We got a bunch of extra spaces here. But so that looks good. So now, right, you guys get your heads wrapped around that? Let's go another step further. Let's make it so that you can select which records, right? Because right now we either said, right, so this was patch 1, this was patch all. Oh, doop, doop. And so then now what I want to do is I need a button that says patch just the selected records. But before I can do that, I've got to have a way to select the records. So this is another one of those things that probably should have had its own video. Maybe it'll get its own video another day. But what we're going to do is we need to make a collection. So I'm going to throw a button over here, and I'm just going to name this create collection. So like so. And so when you click on this button, we're going to say clear collect, which takes and makes a collection, or if a collection already exists, it wipes out the data and starts over with a blank collection. And we're going to call this collection Oh, I always make them lowercase, collection demo. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, I want you to load in here employees, like that. So that would just go out to the SharePoint data source, grab all the employees, and put them into a collection called collection demo that I could use. But the reason we're using a collection here is I need an extra column to keep track of whether or not the user has selected them. And I don't want to go change my SharePoint data source. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another function in here called add columns. All right, another data shaping. Once again, I'll link to that video. I realize now that I'm using a bunch of those concepts. But so in the add columns, we're going to say, hey, I want to add a column named, I'm going to call it is chosen. Like that. And then what is the expression? I'm going to just say set it to false. So this will add a column of data called is chosen, and it's going to set all their values to false. So let's just press the button, create collection, boom. We could go over here to say view collections real quick and collect demo. And so then we should see one called is chosen in here. There it is. And they're all just set to false. All right. So then now I'm going to go to my gallery and I'm like, all right, Mr. Gallery. Maybe it's a Mrs. Gallery. Who knows? Instead of using employees, I want you to use collection demo, right? So collection demo, we get the same results because it's the same data. It's just in that package and it's got that extra column name. But so then now what we can do is we could, let's see, the first thing I want to do is we'll throw another label in here. So we'll say insert a label. And so we're just going to put it right up here. And we're going to say, hey, this item is chosen. And you can see that they're all false, right? We've proven that, but just so you can see them. So then now that we've got that all set up, I'm going to scoot this thing over and move these two over. And so then now we want to go to the inputs, right? This used to be called controls. I hate they renamed it, but they did. Set the checkbox. I'm going to throw a checkbox over here. I'm going to set the text to be blank. Nobody needs to know what that is. Kind of make it a little smaller. Yeah. What do you think? That look nice? No, not really, but whatever. It works. Okay. So then now that I've got a checkbox in here, boom, what we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, Mr. Checkbox, your default value, wherever default is up here, is going to be this item is chosen. So they're all blank now, right? Because the checkbox shows true or false. And so then we're going to use a special property called onCheck to say, hey, when they check this box, what I want you to do is I want you to patch collection demo. And what field do I want you to patch? I want you to patch this item. And what do I want you to set? I want you to set is chosen to true in lowercase like that. And so then now when they check the box, not only is it going to visually change, but it is also going to change the data so we can query for which ones are chosen. So then we're going to copy that, Control C. We're going to go to on uncheck. We're going to paste it. We're not going to make the mistake I made during practice. We're going to set this to false. Boom. So then now the idea here is that patch collection demo, boom, true or false. So then if we go and we click on this record and this record, right, you can see that this changed to true and true where all the rest of them are false. And what I really want is I'm going to throw a label over here. And I'm going to say number of selected records. And then we're going to say count rows. But we're not going to count all the rows in collection demo, right? We could. That should come back with a 7. Let's just make sure that I'm not lying to you. Boom, that's 7. But that's not what we want. What we want to do is we want to filter collection demo. And how do we want to filter it? We want to filter collection demo where is chosen. All right, and is chosen returns true or false. So that's all you got to write in the formula. So then now you can see we've got 2 records. And if we go and play the app, and I check on the truck driver, now we got 3, right? Daniel's 4. And then if we take away Shane, this is where I messed up earlier, 2, 3, and 2. Now also you notice here that it's changing the is selected because we're not using that the same way. I'm going to go change my template fill color here and be like, hey, if instead of if is selected, we're going to say if is chosen. So then now, if we say play, oh look, the selected people only are that color. So that gives your users a better visual indicator of who they have and haven't chosen. Fancy. Okay, so now we've got all of that working. We'd be like, all right, that works. Those are the 4 people I'd want to patch. So I'm going to grab this formula, or I'm just going to copy this button. Control C, Control V, pull this down here. And we're going to change this to be patch selected. And so now we want to work on this a little bit though. So instead of patching all employees, well, remember our little filter right here? That's the employees I want to patch. So I'm going to copy that. Right, I told you I do everything in baby steps, people. Boom, paste that in. And so then now it's mad at me for something. So let's figure out why it's mad at me. I'm going to hover. I'm going to click in here and hover. The function patch has invalid arguments. All right, so, oh, right, because I was going too fast, I pasted that in the wrong place. No problem. So undo. Right, because I don't want to change this employees. I needed to change the employees in the data source where I'm feeding in the records. Oh. So then now look, we've got take the collection demo. We want to filter it where it is chosen. And then we're going to rename the column ID to EID. Man, we're doing like multiple things, right? But we didn't do multiple things all at once. We've just been putting little pieces together. That's the key to being good at Power Apps, I promise. So then now we did this. We patch all this. That looks good. So then now if we click on patch selected, you know what I'd also probably do just to be fancy? I like to show off. So I'd probably go here to text and be like, so instead of patch selected, I would say patch, I'm going to grab this. How about this? Patch, oh. Oh, I have one too many ampersands. But so look at that. So then now you're making your button contextual, right? Our users know they're going to patch 4 items. Oh, I don't want to patch 4. I want to patch 3. Now our users know they're going to patch 3 items. So you don't need this text up here. Make your button a little fancy and dynamic. So then now we're going to patch these 3 items. So little ants go marching across the screen. Boop. Now notice that these still say that Nicola is bad at her job. Well, that's because I chose. Okay, so all 3 of these are false. So we need to change this. So we're going to say patch it to true. So patch those 3 items. It still says this. Remember, my gallery was set to use a collection. So I got to recreate the collection. So create collection again. It goes and queries the data source, right? Because this only updated the data source. So I had to go re-query that. So what I probably would have done, right, in the real world, let's grab this. Control A, Control C, boop. And so I would have said, all right, after you get done patching that, what would you have done? Well, where is on select when you need it? Probably up here in the O's. There we go. So remember, we can just use a semicolon, shift enter. And so the for all is going to run once, but it's going to run one time for every record. And then when all of the for all work is done, then it's going to go get the collection again. So, right, add columns, that looks good. So then we'll do this. All right, nobody's selected, that's awesome. So let's select, we'll let Greg be good at his job. So we'll just do Greg and Chewy. So 2, patch 2 items. We're going to set those to true. And right, that says false here and false here. So let's patch those 2 items. True and true, because this time we updated the collection. So that's a common type of mistake people make. They're like, I was working with collections and I patched a bunch of data, but now my screen's wrong. We got to refresh the collection. You could also patch the collection if you really want to get fancy. You want to see how you would do that? I'm not saying I would do it this way, but let's just show you how to do it. I promised you guys cool things. Okay, so in here, right, and we do format text, might make this easier to read. So what are we doing? For all these records, we're patching the employees list. What if I want to also, I could just patch the collection at the same time. So I'm going to go right here. Remember, this is going to run the formula for all the records, but it can be any formula, and you can have multiple, right? Throw a semicolon in there. Boop. Come down here, and now I'm going to say patch collection demo. Oh, that's right. You can patch collections. What record do I want to patch in employee or in collection demo? Well, it's the same one, right? So look up employees, like that. Or, not look up employees. Look up in collection demo. I'm going off the reservation here, folks. And which one do I want? I want ID equals EID. It's the same thing. And what do we want to do? We're going to set all they're good at their job, just like that. Paste that in, and then close our parenthesis for our patch. So now we're actually doing 2 different patches for every record. So no big deal, right? You could have as many semicolons. You could also then throw another semicolon in here and be like, hey, after you patch all those, then I want you to Office 365, Outlook, send email v2 to Shane at PowerApps911.com. Subject is, you are awesome, right? I always give myself a pep talk. Then I always bring myself back to the thing. Chewy is better. Boo. Nobody likes that. But look at that. So now we're doing 3 things. So now when I press the button, well, right now nothing would happen. So let's hit play. Let's choose, well, let's just patch them all. Let's patch them all back to false, right? So we still have this button up here. So patch everybody back to false. Now remember, that doesn't do anything. So there you go. So we recreate our collection. So everybody's back to false. Okay. So let's set me, Chewy, and Jennifer. We're going to say, hey, those 3 true are good at their jobs. So that's going to patch 3 items. So what's going to happen this time is it's going to patch employees, then it's semicolon. It's going to patch the collection. So the collection is updated with the most correct information. And then thirdly, it's going to send me an email. So I should get 3 emails. So we'll go over here, patch 3 items. Doop, doop, doop. So you can see true, true. Well, let's see. So true Shane, true Chewy, true Jennifer. Awesome. That worked. And then what do you want to do? You want to see my email? Hang on one second. And so then there's my email. Look, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome. I got 3 emails. That is so cool. So now you did notice here that it didn't deselect everyone. Why is that? Because the is chosen is still set to true for those 3 people. So you'd have to go write logic to reset the is chosen if you needed to do that also. Okay, so that's a lot of the guts of it. Now this is mad. Let's go check out this, right? This formula is, I can't handle red X's in my apps if we're being honest. So let's just see what's wrong with this one. So it's like, hey, patch employees gallery 3.selected. Why is it mad? Right? The reason it is mad is because gallery 3.selected is not the same data source anymore, right? It's not employees. It is it's the collection now, right? If we look at the items for the gallery, it was the collection. And so that's when we made a collection there and made it mad. To fix it, we're going to go back up here. And so we got to go back to the lookup mentality, right? So we'll go to lookup, and then we're going to look up in employees where ID equals gallery3.selected.id, just like that. And so then that would fix it, right? So just a little bit of a tweak. It's a little more of a manual process now because we're using a collection, so they don't exactly match the data source, but same difference. So not too bad. All right, so last couple of things that I want to show you here, right? So let's get into a little more advanced things. So one of the most complicated or weirdest things to me about ForAll, and there's reasons for it we won't get into, but the ForAll function cannot set a variable. You cannot have a set statement inside of a ForAll button, right? So if we did something like this, we said ForAll employees, and then we said set var Shane equals 1, and then close this out, right? It's like, no, you can't do that. If we hover, you can't use the set function inside of ForAll. There's other things you can't do, but set is the one that caused me the most grief. So I had to figure out a way to work around it. So what you can do, you can't set, but you can collect. So I could do something like this. It could be like collect counter. And then we could just say, what I want to do is I want to increment that thing. So I want to take that collection and update it over and over and over again. Right? Because you could say collect counter, and then how about we'll just do a record thing like this. Will be like title field was, and then title from our, oh, that's not how you spell title though, title from our data source, like that and that. And so then now it's like, hey, I don't know what you're talking about. You will in just a second as soon as I close this. And so then now if I press this button, I'll boop. So if we say view collections, collect counter, you can see that I'm just writing the title field in here over and over and over and over and over again. And so then that's a way for me to collect what's happening inside of my ForAll function, right? So throw that in there. I don't typically have to do that, but that is a way if you're trying to like capture data. What I see done here the most is people will write these records and then count the rows so they know how many records they process, right? So imagine your ForAll had to process 200 records. So you could be like, count rows, which would be the number currently in that collection of, and then the total data set you're patching. And so you'd be like 1 of 200, 2 of 200, 3 of 200. So that way you can kind of like a rolling progress bar on the screen. So I've seen people do that type of stuff where they needed to work around the fact that they couldn't just set a counter variable. They end up throwing things in collections. And so you can use the collection then to, kind of set your data over and over again. So just little different ways to go about it. But hopefully that gives you guys some ideas, because the ForAll function, it's a little awkward at first. If you're really a math-centric person, it's a great function. But if you're not a math-centric person, it's real easy to be like, I don't really understand how that one works. But I promise you that you need to kind of wrap your head around it a little bit, because when you're doing relationships, when you're trying to do bulk updates, when you're trying to do mass notifies, all those type of things, I can't think of, probably half my customer apps I end up having to use ForAll. So that's why I want to run it through with you guys. Remember, if you're a subscriber to our new content service, right, through training.powerapps911.com, you can download this app. So that way you don't have to type in all these formulas and rebuild all this. You can just grab my code snippets and go. So if you haven't checked that out, go to training.powerapps911.com, check out the curated content. Other than that, hopefully this has really helped you guys. If you got ideas for future videos, I feel like I'm behind on videos. I feel like I'm negligent. So I'm going to try and pop out a few more really fast here, because I just feel like I'm behind. So I don't know. I guess with all that, I'm just going to say thanks and have a great day. Before you go, be sure to click on the subscribe button over here, so that way you'll be notified when new videos come out. If you need any help or you want to work together, whether your problem is big or small, check us out at PowerApps 911. We do it all. I rhymed. Or if you're looking for more formal training offerings, we have those linked up here somewhere. So check them out. Thanks and have a great day.